My mother told me to pack my things was the same day I found out the house I'd been keeping afloat wasn't even hers to give away. She stood in the kitchen like a judge, calm as a clock ticking, and said, "Your sister needs peace. You need to move out." I remember the sting of it, how easy it sounded, like I was a piece of clutter she'd finally decided to throw out. Then the doorbell rang, and when my lawyer stepped inside, my mother's face drained so fast I thought she might faint. I didn't always hate that kitchen when I was little. It smelled like cinnamon toast and lemon cleaner. My mom Marlin used to sing under her breath while she cooked, not real singing, more like humming with confidence. She'd flick her wrist when she flipped pancakes, like the world was hers and it was all going according to plan. Back then, I believed her. I believed she loved me the same way she loved my sister, Kiara, but love has a way of changing shapes when someone decides you're useful. My dad, Derek, died when I was 17. It was sudden, one of those phone calls that makes the room tilt even before you understand the words. Heart attack, they said. No warning, no second chances. Just a quiet man who worked overtime and came home smelling like sawdust and cologne. Gone. After the funeral, everything became about survival. Marlene cried dramatically in the living room for days, but the moment the casseroles stopped coming, she snapped into a new version of herself. Sharp, worried, and impatient. Kiara was only 14, then pretty, delicate, always the one people wanted to protect. I was the older one, so naturally I became the helper. The fixer, the strong one. Your mature mom would tell me, "I can count on you." That sentence became a chain. I worked after school, then full-time. After graduation, I delayed college, convinced it was temporary. I paid utilities when mom forgot. I gave Kiara rides, money for school trips, money for nails, money for whatever crisis she had that week. Kiara learned quickly that tears were a currency in our house. And my mother, she learned that my guilt was the easiest thing to spend. The first time I realized the balance was off, I was 20-2. I had just come home from a double shift at the hospital CNA work, the kind that leaves your back screaming. I'd barely taken my shoes off when Kiara came into my room without knocking. She sat on my bed like she owned it, scrolling on her phone. "See," she said, not looking up, "I need you to take over my car insurance." I blinked at her. "What?" She sighed like I'd inconvenienced her. "Mom said you would." "I'm trying to focus on my mental health. It's stressful having bills." I stared at her, this girl wearing a brand new hoodie, glossy lips, lashes so thick they cast shadows, talking about stress like she'd ever carried something heavy in her life. "I'm not doing that," I said, voice low. "I already pay the electric and the water, and I cover groceries half the time." Kiara finally looked up, eyes wide and innocent. "So, you're saying you don't care if I get depressed again?" That was the magic trick. She didn't argue facts, she threw emotions like grenades. Before I could answer, Mom appeared in my doorway like she'd been summoned. "What's going on?" Marlene asked, already frowning at me. Kiara sniffled on cue. "Zenya doesn't want to help me. She thinks I'm a burden." Marlene's eyes turned to me, cold and disappointed. "Zania, you know your sister struggles. Why would you make her feel unsafe?" Unsafe? In her own home. In the home I paid to keep running. I opened my mouth to say all the things I'd swallowed for years, but exhaustion beat me to it. I just shook my head. "I'm not arguing. I'm going to bed." Marlene stepped closer. "This attitude is why your sister can't have peace." That sentence came back years later, crueler, with an eviction behind it. By the time Kiara hit 21, she'd mastered the art of being helpless. She dropped out of community college twice because her anxiety was triggered. She started dating men who gave her attention but never stability. She stayed home, spent money, and complained about the energy in the house whenever I came home, too tired to smile. I didn't realize my mother had been collecting those complaints like evidence. I found out the day she told me to move out. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were my only consistent early day. The one day I came home before sunset. I walked in and heard laughter, Kiara's bright, sharp giggle from the living room. I stepped in and saw Kiara sprawled on the couch with her feet up, sipping something pink in a fancy glass like she lived in a music video. My mother sat beside her, rubbing her back like Kiara was fragile. Kiara turned, saw me, and her smile thinned. "Oh, you're home early." I set my bag down. "Yeah, short shift." Marlene didn't even greet me. She stood slowly, as if preparing for a speech. "Sania, we need to talk." Something in her tone made my stomach tighten. She led me into the kitchen. Kiara followed, of course, because she never missed a chance to watch me get cornered. Marlena folded her arms. This house has been tense. Kiara's been having trouble sleeping. She feels judged. I let out a slow breath. I barely talked to her. Kiara's face twisted. See, that's what I mean. You're so cold. Marlene cut in, voice firm. Your sister needs peace. And frankly, you've been angry for years. It's affecting everyone. My heart started beating harder. What are you saying? Marlene looked me dead in the eye. I'm saying you need to move out. By the end of the month, the kitchen went quiet, except for the hum of the fridge. I felt my face heat up, like my body didn't understand how someone could say that out loud. I laughed once, sharply. You can't be serious. Kiara crossed her arms, chin lifted. Why not? You're grown. So is she, I shot back, pointing at Kiara. Why doesn't she move out? Kiara's eyes flashed. Because I'm not the one making the house toxic. Marlene's voice rose. Don't point at her like that. She's sensitive. I stared at my mother. I pay the bills. I keep this place running. I buy groceries. I've done that since Dad died. Marlene's mouth tightened, and we appreciate it. But that doesn't mean you get to bring your bitterness into this home. Bitterness, like it grew in me for no reason. Like it wasn't planted and watered by years of being used. I took a shaky breath. If you want me gone, fine. But I want my money back. I want what I've put into this house. Kiara laughed, actually laughed. You sound crazy. Marlene leaned forward. Don't threaten me, Zach. This is my house. That's when the doorbell rang. It was loud, insistent. Like someone wasn't asking, they were announcing. We all froze. Marlene's eyes flicked toward the front door. Irritation already forming. Who is that? My throat felt tight. But I walked to the door because something told me this wasn't a coincidence. When I opened it, a woman stood on the porch in a crisp blazer, holding a leather folder. She looked polished, calm, and expensive. The kind of person who didn't waste words. Zenith Hart, she asked. My heart jumped. Yes. She smiled once. I'm Vanessa Hart, your attorney. We spoke on the phone yesterday. Marlene appeared behind me fast, voice sharp. Attorney. For what? Vanessa stepped inside without being invited. Not rude, just certain. She glanced at Marlene, then Kiara, then back to me. Double quotes, Ms. Carter. She said to me, I have the documents you requested, and I believe it's best we discuss them with all parties present. Marlene's face shifted in real time from confusion to suspicion to something like fear. I don't know what game you're playing, Xenia. Vanessa held up a hand politely. This isn't a game. This is a property and estate matter. My stomach twisted. I hadn't expected Vanessa to show up today. I'd only called her because I couldn't sleep the night before. Something about my mother saying my house with that kind of confidence made me feel like I was standing on ATRAPDOOR. So I did something I'd never done before. I asked questions. I called the county office first, then a legal aid line, then finally got referred to Vanessa's estate attorney, who didn't sound surprised by any of it. She asked me one question that echoed in my mind. Did your father leave a will? I hadn't known. Marlene never talked about it. She acted like Dad died and the world owed her sympathy and silence. Vanessa led us back into the kitchen like she owned it too. She set the folder on the table and opened it neatly. Derek Carter, she began, did have an estate plan, a will, and a living trust. Marlene's mouth opened. That's not true. Vanessa didn't blink. It is. It was filed and notarized in 2008. The house was placed in a trust. Kiara's eyes widened. What does that even mean? Vanessa turned a page. It means the house was never solely Marlena Carter's. It was held for the benefit of Derek Carter's heirs. My palms were sweating. I swallowed airs. Meaning, Vanessa looked at me gently. Meaning you, Xenia. The air left my lungs. Marlene slammed her hand on the table. No, that's Derek would never. Vanessa slid a document across the table. According to the trust terms, Xenia Carter becomes the sole beneficiary of the property upon reaching the age of 25. I stared at the paper, like it might change if I looked away. My name was there, typed, official, undeniable. I was 26. Kiara's voice came out thin. So, what? She owns the house. Vanessa nodded. Legally, yes. As of last year. Marlene's face went pale, then red. This is manipulation. Derek wouldn't do this behind my back. My voice came out shaky. Not from fear, something else. Something like grief mixed with clarity. He did it because he knew you'd do this, I whispered. He knew you'd try to control everything. Marlene spun toward me. After everything I sacrificed, I cut her off, louder than I meant to. louder than I meant to. What did you sacrifice? Because it feels like I've been the sacrifice. Silence. Vanessa cleared her throat and stayed professional. There's more. Miss Carter, Zania asked me to check the property records. There have been attempts to refinance this house in the past 2 years. Marlene stiffened. Vanessa's eyes narrowed slightly. Attempts that required the owner's signature, which you were not authorized to provide. Kiara's head snapped up. Mom, Marlene's voice went sharp. I did what I had to do. We needed money. Did we? I asked, staring at her. Because Kiara's been wearing it. Kiara jumped up. Don't look at me. I laughed again, bitter. Oh, now we're sensitive. Vanessa spoke calmly, like she'd seen families tear each other apart over less. To be clear, Zania has grounds to pursue fraud claims. She has chosen not to provide it. Certain conditions are met. Marlene's eyes flicked to me, desperate. Zania, don't do this. Don't do it. My voice cracked. Protect myself. Marlene stepped closer. You're being cruel. Kiara needs stability. I held up the paper, my hand trembling. You just told me to leave so she could have peace. Kiara's eyes were glossy. I didn't mean. Yes, you did, I said softly. You meant it because you've always known Mom would pick you. I turned to Vanessa. Tell them the conditions. Vanessa nodded. Zania is willing to allow Marlene Carter 30 days to relocate. Kiara Carter is not permitted to remain on the property past that period unless a lease is signed under Zania's terms. Additionally, Zania will assume full control of all bills and accounts related to the property, effective immediately. Marlene looked like she'd been slapped. You're evicting your own mother. I swallowed hard. My chest ached, but I didn't look away. You evicted me first. You just didn't know. You didn't have the power. For a second, I saw the younger version of my mom, the one who hummed while flipping pancakes flash in her eyes. Then it vanished, replaced by the woman who'd been using me as a financial cushion for a decade. Marlene's voice shook. So you're just going to throw us out? I set the paper down gently. No, I'm going to stop letting you throw me around. Kiara's face crumpled. Where are we supposed to go? I looked at her and felt something strange. Not hatred. Not joy, just distance. The kind you feel when you finally accept someone isn't going to change. You're adults, I said. Figure it out. Like I had to. That night was chaos. Marlene cried in the living room, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Kiara accused me of ruining the family. They both tried every angle: guilt, anger, nostalgia. Your father would be ashamed. Marlene sobbed. I stared at her. My father is the reason I'm standing up right now. Kiara paced. You're really going to be like this? You're going to act like we're strangers? I answered quietly. You already treated me like one. Over the next few weeks, I learned what it felt like to breathe in my own home. I changed the utility accounts into my name. I locked my bedroom door at night without feeling guilty. I stopped handing over money every time someone pouted. And when Marlene tried to borrow my card for groceries, I said no and watched her blink, like she couldn't process the word. The biggest twist wasn't the legal papers, it was the way my own spine grew back. On day 2, Marlene and Kiara were still there, acting like if they ignored reality, it would stop approaching. Kiara had packed nothing. Marlene kept forgetting apartment tours. So on day 30, Vanessa returned with a deputy and a formal notice. Marlene's face was wet with tears, but her eyes were hard. You're really doing this? I nodded once. Yes, Kiara screamed at me on the way out. You think you won? I didn't shout back. I didn't need to. When the door finally closed behind them, the house went quiet in a way I'd never heard. Not lonely, just peaceful. The kind of peace I'd been paying for all these years, but never allowed to feel. I sat on the floor of the living room and cried until my ribs hurt. Not because they were gone, because I was finally here. A week later, I found something tucked in the back of my dad's old toolbox in the garage, a small envelope with my name on it, written in his handwriting. Inside was a note, short and blunt, like him. Zania, you're not responsible for everyone. Live your life. Love, Dad. I pressed it to my chest and whispered, I'm trying. Months passed. I repainted the kitchen. I planted herbs by the window. I enrolled in classes at the community college I'd once postponed. And for the first time in my life, I made decisions without checking if they would upset my mother or trigger my sister. Marlene and Kiara tried to call, at first angry messages, then softer ones. I miss you. My mother wrote once. I stared at the text for a long time, then typed back, I miss the mom I thought I had. I hope you find yourself again. Kiara sent a message too. Weeks later, I didn't know the house was yours. I replied, You didn't care whose it was, you just wanted me out. After that, the silence became a boundary and, honestly, it saved me, because revenge, I learned, isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a calm no. Sometimes it's paperwork. Sometimes it's keeping what's yours after years of being told you didn't deserve it. And sometimes it's living so well that the people who tried to break you can't recognize you anymore. If you've ever been the strong one in your family, the one who pays, fixes, apologizes, and swallows your pain, let this be your reminder: love shouldn't cost you your entire life. If this story hit home, tap like, subscribe for more long-form storytelling, and drop a comment. Have you ever had to choose yourself, even when it hurt?